Hi guys, welcome to a new episode of Las Platicas for our YouTube video. Kristen, who is in studio today?
Hello, everybody. Well, welcome to, like Sarah said, another episode of Las Platicas, a show hosted by Comadres y Comics Podcast, where we meet with creators and friends to talk about upcoming projects, events, and all around awesome news in the comic community. Joining us today is Greg Anderson-Elysee. Greg is a Brooklyn-born Haitian-American writer, filmmaker, model, and educator. He is the writer and creator of the award-winning comic book graphic novel series Anansi the Spider, a coming-of-age dark fantasy book about the son of Anansi the Spider, drawing inspiration from Black myths, folklore, and spirituality. He is also the creator of the sci-fi series Marassa and other works. Through various platforms, Greg fights for more inclusion and better representation when it comes to people of all colors and sexuality. We are excited to have Greg on the show today to share with us his current Kickstarter project, Anansi the Spider Showtime. Welcome, Greg.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for showing up even though there's a big change in time. What time is it over there?
It is 10 o'clock here.
All right. Well, it's not that late. We're young.
Past my bedtime.
Welcome again. So please tell us about how you got started on your journey in the comic book world and how Webway Comics came to be, and how long of a time before you creating this independent publishing company to actually creating it.
Well, I've been collecting comics since I was around the second grade. I first discovered a comic book shop when I was heading to school. And from there, I was very excited to find such a shop like this existed. And ever since I bought my very first comic, that was pretty much it. I was obsessed for life. By the time I reached middle school and high school, that was when I sort of put my foot down saying that this is what I want to do in my life. This is what I want to do is make comics. And I've been writing since I was in the first grade and drawing since I was in the first grade. But it wasn't until reaching high school was when I decided I just want to write comics. That's all I want to do. And I created a couple of characters growing up. And there was one particular character, his name is Jeremy Tableau, who shows up in volume 2 because I just can't let that character go no matter what. But was working on a comic series with a high school friend. And it just didn't, it wasn't working out as I would have liked. And so Nana sort of became my backup character. But as I kept developing the character and thinking about what inspired him, which was the fact that I would ask a lot of people, especially Black people, if they knew who Anansi the Spider was. And at the time, many of them told me, who is that? Who I don't know who that is. And so I wanted Isnana to represent the next generation of reclaiming a lot of like Black roots and meeting all these figures from various Black folklore and mythology and spirituality and so on, and also using this series as a way to celebrate Black culture. And I'd say it was maybe a little less than a year of me developing the concept and deciding I wanted to do my own sort of input with Webway Comics. And within that year of finding an artist who was Walter Osley and Lee Malusky on the colors and Joshua Kozan on the letters, things just, it just took off, until I finally released it 2016.
That's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, that is amazing.
Pretty awesome.
I love hearing all of the quote unquote origin stories of comic creators, and they all start somewhere in some LCS.
A lot of people say that they started off like when they were young in like elementary school age, saying like, oh, they found a comic or they got a comic or they went to a local comic shop. And it's amazing how universal this experience is, especially with people in this industry.
Definitely.
Like, it's so strange that like you were asking people who Anansi was and nobody knew, and yet now years and years and years later now in American Gods they have Anansi as a main character, which is really brilliant. But kind of sucks because I believe they're retiring that character from the series.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, boo.
I know.
That's okay.
Oh.
I have questions about that.
Me too.
So you touched a little bit about, I love mythology. Mythology is one of my favorite things. I have read all that I could about my own like background roots from Guatemalan Mayan mythology, like of course the more popular Greek mythology and stuff like that, and of course West African mythology as well. Can you tell us more about the initial idea? I know you said that you wanted to like bring back attention to the fact that Anansi and how he is very much a very cultural icon, as well as like, you know, like a very important person in just the creation myth of West Africa. But how else did you want to utilize West African folklore, Haitian stories, and beliefs of Black American folklore in your comics? And can you tell us a little bit about the creative team behind the project, how they support you? Because I love the book in its entirety, from the art to the colors to the lines and to your own storytelling. It all fits so well. Can you tell us more about them and how you guys work together to bring Isnan up to life?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of incorporating a lot of Black folklore mythology, I, just like you, I grew up on Greek mythology. I taught myself so much Greek mythology growing up because I was a huge Hercules and Xena fan.
Yeah.
And oh man, that was my jump off. But I always tried to find more and more of these stories. And my mom also introduced me to Clash of the Titans, the original one.
Yeah.
I love Clash of the Titans.
So
it's
good.
my favorite movie. I
A
saw
Titan
it.
against a Titan.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it in 3rd grade from a teacher who put it on for us when we were learning about Greek mythology, and that movie has stuck with me throughout the time. It's what inspired me to like read into mythology and learn all these stories and stuff like that.
Yeah, my mom, it was my mom. My mom introduced me to that. She was the one who used to read fairy tales to me and everything. You know, so I have a love for fantasy because of my mom introducing me to that. And also a love for horror because my mom was also a horror fan. Even though now she's like this conservative Christian who's like, oh no, but I definitely got my appreciation for all that stuff. And when I got to, I'd say high school, it was high school, one of my art teachers, she had a book on mythology from all over the world, from various cultures. And of course, the first place I went to was Greek. I wanted to see what they have for the Greek.
Yeah.
Then I started thinking about, wait, I don't think I know any mythologies from other, like Haiti and stuff. So I looked and I saw a couple of folklore characters and spirituality characters as well. And I remember asking my mom about, oh, can you tell me about some of the gods that we have in Haiti? And she was like, no, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that.
Yeah. So I feel that because when I ask my mom about stories from Guatemala, she's just like, no. That's something. It's almost taboo in a way. I don't understand why exactly. But it's I had to get a lot of my stories directly from my grandfather, and my grandmother.
I mean, it's taboo because of colonialism, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, anything that's not, unfortunately, anything that's not white, that's not European based, it's considered some type of taboo witchcraft, something you should be ashamed about. And even when I asked my father, when I asked my pops, he was just like, yeah, I'll tell you everything you want to know. You know? And even though my pops was just like, I would not be the one to want to dabble on all this because my dad at the time, he was also very Christian, but he was like, but I do know this is our roots. No matter what anyone say, this is our roots. These are our stories. And so he was always very, very happy of introducing me to different stories that he's been told growing up while he was in the country and so on and so forth. And as when I created that character, Jeremy Tableau, that he was supposed to sort of dabble in more of the Caribbean-based type of mythology and spirituality and so on and so forth. But when I created Isnana, after realizing, wait, people don't really know Anansi, even though Anansi is probably the most well-known Black god that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I decided, I'm going to do research on my own and find as many deities or spiritual folklore figures I can find. So while I was in college, I was also taking Black studies and learning about various characters that I'd never heard about in my life. And I started doing my own research. And so that's where that grew, my love of researching and finding out more. And I decided that's what I'm going to make, is now to be an introduction to these type of characters and figures. And in terms of the artists, I've worked with various artists for each story. I'm a huge, I just love art, and
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to always pin down my favorite type of many things, because I just love a variety of things. And so that's why each story of Isnana, I mess around with a different artist or a different creative team. There are some that come back because I just love working with them. And I love seeing the way after my series and seeing how their art has grown since then. So it's like, yo, let's take advantage of that new style that you have. But they're always so much fun to work with. I try to see if I can build a type of friendship or rapport before we start working, just to figure out the best ways to work with each other. And for Showtime specifically, when Showtime was actually supposed to come out years ago. It was supposed to come out before Volume 2.
Okay.
Yeah, if you notice, the story actually takes place in between. And the plan was, while I was working on 2, Showtime is going to be shorter, so let's release it before. But I had trouble finding artists that can be locked down in order to do it for me. And I wanted a very specific artist who understood New York culture, who understood the city, who understood the youth, and so on and so forth. So when I finally found Miguel Blanco, I love his style. And I was a little hesitant to work with him simply because he's one of my friends. And experience, I know I don't want to work with friends ever again, but it was just too good to pass up. So, and when he signed on to it and trying to work with each other's schedules, he just knocked it out the park. I love his line work. He added a lot of culture and fluidity to it, and I love how he has these amazing background characters, just to really depict just how diverse New York City is. And I had Angel Davis Cooper, who came in with the colors, because Lee, my normal colorist, he didn't feel as if his art could really mesh well with Miguel's. So when I found Angel, and she added this brightness, this colorfulness, which I was looking for this story, because it's literally about Isnana finally being a kid and having fun instead of always hunting these monsters down, which is every. So having her on board as well, it just everything was just very fun. And Deron Bennett, who is the letterer, he's a Eisner nominated, Harvey nominated. He's getting all these award nominations. He's amazing to work with. He also adds a nice dynamic to the team with his letters. And also we have David Brame, who did a short backup story, who's done a few Isnana shorts before. So I'm always looking for ways to utilize him and to work with him. And finally, we have Corey Randolph, who does the cover art. And he's the artist for Excellence that's printed by Image Comics, and he's worked with Marvel and DC. So to have him attached was like a huge, dude, thank you. And I'm excited. It's almost everyone in the book. It's actually this book is an all-Black team, which I'm very excited for.
That's great.
That's awesome.
That is
awesome. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I know that you sent us a PDF of Showtime, and I really love how the artists actually, the way they draw the breakdancing, like all those moves, it's just like amazing. It was really great to see.
When I was reading it, I actually, for a moment, I was just like, is Ed Piscor doing this art? And I was like, I was just like, no, it's not. But it reminded me of his work so much, or like of Trad Moore's or Felipe Smith's artwork, that I was utterly taken with it. I absolutely loved it.
And the colors, man, they really make it pop. I mean, it's really youthful, a lot of fun. It's really great.
So in case our listeners and watchers have not learned by now by what we're saying, we actually got to read Isnana the Were Spider Showtime to do a review of it and in preparation for this interview. So you'll have to listen to that episode coming out soon to hear all about what we thought about it. No spoilers, but you can also get your very own copy in a Kickstarter that is live right now. And so, Greg, this is your 4th Kickstarter campaign, and that's amazing. And I was kind of trying to look on my phone discreetly before I got to this question, because I wanted to see what the actual total was. But you've already hit your freaking goal, right?
In 3 days, right?
Yeah, actually, if you go onto the Kickstarter page, your book is one of the first ones that show like already funded. That is right there in them. At least it has been for when I went to go check on it.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So congratulations, not only on this Kickstarter that you started, but on already reaching your goals and just having such a successful property that it seems is really connecting with a lot of people. I mean, we totally loved everything we've read so far. But can you tell our listeners about the campaign? So what are some of the rewards a backer can earn?
Sure. So we have, of course, a copy of Showtime, whether you are a physical reader or a PDF reader, digital, you can get either. Or you can actually even get both if you're into that as well. If people are new to Isnana, you can get volume 1, 2, and as well as the ballads of Rawhead and John Henry, which came out last month, or you can get a combination of whichever ones that you feel like you might be missing, if you do have one of them, or so on and so forth. We also have prints from John Jennings and Rodney Sanan, who I think they're just amazing artists, very different from each other, but captured a nice essence of Isnana. We have pop toys of Isnana and Osibo the Leopard from volume 1.
Are you serious? What?
Yeah,
I didn't see those. I was looking at the rewards and I completely missed that. Oh my gosh.
They're all the way at the bottom.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like at the 100 mark donation.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. We also have trading cards. The trading cards
cool.
the last Kickstarter, and people seem to really enjoy that. So we made a new set with David Brame with the art, and David Brame, he's probably one of the most versatile artists I've ever worked with or I've known. So I like seeing him mess with different styles for each individual character. And behind each card, you get a little bit of the bio and backstory and which country and culture they derived from. So if anyone's ever interested in learning a bit more about them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Wow, that's like a throwback to the 1990s trading cards. Oh, yeah. I love it. The power level, everything. Awesome.
That's what inspired it. And we also have a t-shirt by one of my homegirls, one of my best friends from high school, Tiana Scott, who's a part of Happy Monster. And she had a Kickstarter with her sister, Nia, which went way beyond their goals a few weeks ago.
Nice.
And we have a signed copy from all the creators for Showtime as well. And I think that might be, and Anthology, Modern Anthology, which is a book by Caleb Palmquist. He got a whole bunch of different writers and creators, and they wrote modern versions of original mythologies from all over the world. And there's an Isnana story in there as well.
That's super cool.
Yes.
Oh, that is so cool. I'm like, I didn't check out. I need to go back and check out the pops. Those are so cool. Now I know that in sharing your Kickstarter, your main mission with Isnana the Were Spider is a way to introduce audiences to Isnana and folklore and mythology. So what are some of the main points and ideas that you wanted to impact, that you wanted to impart to your readers?
Well, for the most part, I want them to be inspired and to gain power from knowledge of where they come from. You know, because I've noticed, if you notice, and especially us as people of color, when we have so much pride in ourselves and where we come from, for some reason that irritates a lot of people. It's weird. It's very weird. You know, it's like we have this strong power all of a sudden. It's just like, oh, how dare you?
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, I feel that gives us so much worth, and when they say representation matters, it does matter. I remember being young and being so excited when I learned about a Black character, because they were so rare for me to see in all the different fantasies that I was watching. And when I finally had them as the main character, that was something where I was just completely amazed about. And learning more and more of my culture and context, the history, and our characters, our stories, I just got so much excitement and pride of where I came from, you know, no matter what hardships that we've gone through. And I feel I want that same type of thing for someone who's reading, you know, to sort of try to discover and look in to where they come from. And so in any way that I can inspire somebody, introduce some of these characters, and to have people say, whoa, this is a character from my background, I would love that.
That just sounds so amazing. I just read an article where they were saying that when children see themselves in stories, it could plant a seed for a lifetime and a commitment to reading. So you're doing amazing work, and your writing is amazing. I don't know if you heard the review on our episode 69, but your writing is so magical. We're so happy to have you on the show.
I mean,
Yeah, I love that review.
correct me if I'm wrong, but one of you actually compared him to Neil Gaiman.
That was Jen.
That was me. I love folklore and mythology a lot, and I'm glad I was able. I'm glad, one, I'm glad you recognize the name, and two, that you can appreciate the comparison.
That
Yeah.
made my day when I listened to that podcast and you guys compared me to him. I was just like, oh yes.
Yeah, no, it takes skill to redo the folklore and mythology, because they are, in a way, they're the language of the culture that you're from. They are how you impart lessons, stories, pastimes, and stuff like that. So when you mess with something like that, sometimes some people aren't happy. And that's the same people like who are part of your culture, like, why are you doing this? You shouldn't have done this, blah blah blah. And but I think it's important to modernize these stories, and I'm glad that you are creating this new folklore for not just Anansi, but like we don't get a lot of stories about Anansi's children, and so I think this is amazing, and it's something that you can definitely play around with. So I really enjoy it. Now, you have created multiple books with Iznana as the main character. Are there any plans to create other books with other mythological characters, or like another like side series? And like how many, like I know you said you wanted to introduce all these characters, but is there a plan to do other like parts of African mythology, or are you gonna stick with just Anansi for right now and West African stories?
I mean, I may stay with Iznana pretty much as the lead, generally because it's so much work just to do one. So given that Iznana has sort of become my guide into introducing a lot of these characters, is something that I feel is going to take most priority. But I have had many people ask me if I can do more with John Henry that I did with him in that world with the robots. So in my mind already started churning some ideas, but I'm just like, no, don't do it. But I can't stop it. So
a short story here and there won't be bad.
Yeah, it probably won't be. And I had one of my artists actually hit me up like, yo, I want to do that John Henry thing, you know, so I'm considering it, but at the same time, I think a part of me, some of the ideas that I do have, I end up trying to mold it into what ways can I make it fit Isnana in some context. That way I bring everything together, given that the theme that I want with him is him, being an introduction to a lot of these mythologies. But at the same time, I'm not going to rule out anything because my mind is always churning something. I have many different projects that I am working on, but a little bit of my work, sometimes even outside of Isnana, sometimes I'll sneak in a little bit of like Black culture and Black spirituality in there. So can't say never say never. So.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed the preview that you gave us, and there was another one where Isnana interacts with an Orisha, and I was so happy to see that. I thought it shows that you really are really doing the work and the research, and that you genuinely do want to share it.
Yeah, that particular story, because that's the backup to Showtime, and if you've read it, where he meets the dancers, and he tells them, "Oh yeah, it took me a week to," and they're extremely sort of pissed off, like, "How dare you say that to us?" But that backup story was supposed to represent that actual week.
Okay.
Yeah, where he's learning, because the title is That's the Ticket, is Nana's week. And so you see him Oshun is sort of helping him with his moves in a way. And that idea actually, I co-wrote that with David Brain, the artist for that. And we were thinking of which deities you think would be cool that would sort of help Isnana. So we did some research on who would be like some dancer type. And I can't remember who decided Oshun. I think it was him who suggested Oshun. And me, I've always tried to think of ways to introduce Oshun to his story. And I had Oshun show up in another series I had, Marassa. But when he said Oshun for this, I was like, hell yeah. Yes. Yeah. We're doing it. So, but that was definitely one thing I do enjoy with this series too, is artists who are willing to bring something or an idea, because even with the last one shot, it was also David who suggested using Rawhead and Bloody Bones, because that was a character I've never ever heard of, from the South. And I think I was asking him, hey, is there something you ever want to draw? Because I know I wanted to work with him, and he was like, oh, there's these characters. And I remember my stepdad is literally from the South. And when I asked him afterwards, after writing the story and coming up with the concept, he was like, yeah, I know those characters. I was just like, you never thought to tell me, like, you know what I do.
That's funny. So Greg, in your bio on your website and also on the Kickstarter, you talk about how you really prioritize representation in all the work that you do. And you are a Haitian-American creator. So we want to talk to you a little bit about how you define your identity as a Haitian-American creator, and how does that definition drive your creative process behind your stories and characters?
Yeah, so I was born and raised here in Brooklyn, New York. Both my parents are from Haiti. My mom from Port-au-Prince, the city. My dad, the capital. My dad is from the countryside, and I think he moved a lot as well, but it was mostly from the country. And they met here in New York, and that's how I came to be. I spent a very small amount of years in Haiti, because the building that I was living in with my mom actually burned, and so my mom sent me to Haiti to live with her family while she reestablished herself up here. So I spent a couple of years there, and I came back in time for school, and I definitely felt like an outsider coming back, and because to me at the time Haiti was what I knew to be my home. And when, as I got older, I guess more Americanized, it was like my knowledge of the language sort of got a little rusty, but I still know enough to pass where I can have a general conversation. But as I got older, I still continued to have some type of pride in being Haitian, even when growing up. Now it's like, it's very cool to be Haitian, but growing up, we were teased constantly. Anyone who was Haitian was teased for it. And I had many friends who denied being Haitian, but for some reason it just seemed silly to deny it. So I was just always, I'm Haitian. I don't see why are you guys making fun of it. I never understood why the jokes, why it was seen as something negative. It's when I got older and started learning, I started seeing, oh, so that's why we were being teased, really? You know, and it was always some stupid crap, and a lot of it, unfortunately, being imposed by a lot of stereotypes that people saw in movies when it came to Haitian culture, when it came to the fact that people bastardized us because we were the first Black country to win our independence, you know, so they found any ways to sort of diminish whatever accomplishments that we had. So I think that having that pride growing up, it got stronger, and I wanted to learn a bit more of a history and our stories. And so in some way, I just want to shed light of what we have and showcase that we're not the source of horror stories. There's a lot of light to us. There's a lot of positivity. There's culture, there's richness, and we're not something to be ashamed about, you know. And I'm very glad to see that over time, despite the fact that we're still one of the most poverty-stricken countries, there's a lot more pride from people who are descendants or from Haiti, is seeing more of that pride, that joy, and seeing us in movies and actors saying, oh yeah, I'm Haitian. To me, I'm just like, finally, this is what I wanted to see as a kid. I want to
That's awesome. Well, one of the things that I like to ask our guests when we talk about culture and representation is the important part of culture. What is a signature dish that you that any Haitian would be like, that is what my mama cooks, that's what my grandmama cooks? What would you serve us if we came to visit you?
Wow, what would we serve? I mean, so typical dish, rice and beans.
Oh, we can get behind that.
Absolutely.
That's a staple. That's a staple in most Latinx houses.
Oh yeah, I grew up with beans all the time.
We had them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at my grandma's house.
I make a mean bean sandwich.
She does.
We also have one of the main popular dishes you'll find in almost every Haitian household is something called sauce pois, which is bean sauce. You know, they make sauce out of any type of beans. You can make it from black beans, brown beans. You could even make from green peas as well, which was favorite. I love the green peas one. I need to get on my mom. She hasn't done that in a while. We have something called maïmoule, which is it's corn. They do something with the corn, but it's like an acquired taste, because I know a couple of people who they're just like, no, I can't eat that. But for me, I used to be obsessed with it.
I think every culture has that dish that people are like, oh no, I can't eat that. But because you grew up eating it, you're like, it's just what we eat.
Yeah. I will say some people do question my Haitianness when I do say this. Is our independence is January 1st. It's New Year's Day, and every household, they generally eat soup jumu, which is like a squash type of soup, and it has a whole bunch of different things in there, and I cannot eat it. I can't eat it. Everyone in the house is just like, how dare you? But it's just like, I represent everything of this day, and I celebrate it, but I cannot eat that soup.
I feel that I can't eat menudo sometimes. It's just something about it isn't. doesn't click with me anymore. And
Yeah,
I'm just
as
all
an
like,
adult,
I'm like, please don't look at me.
as an adult, knowing what it is, I'm like, that's gross. But because I grew up eating it as a kid, I just eat it because I like it because I ate it as a kid. But as an adult, like knowing what it is and where it came from and everything you have to do to cook it, I'm like, oh, why would we eat that?
Well, I'm gonna admit this now. Every time I order anything like Mexican, I always say, "Can I have the salsa on the side?" Which is like, "Don't you eat chili?" I do, but I just don't want to. I don't want to burn myself, so I want to add it in little increments to see how spicy it is.
See, well, that's similar to when I go to the fruit carts on the side of the road and Eddie's with me. My husband, he is a white man, and he doesn't like the spicy tahini on the fruit. So I have to ask for no tahini. And they give me judgy looks every time.
Absolutely.
Oh man.
No, but it's true.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're like, "How dare you have the salsa on the side?" Oh, and I just feel like they're looking at me and being like, "Oh, she looks totally Mexican. I don't know why she's pretending." But no, seriously, it's true though. Like, it's because I don't know if it's like super spicy. Some people like they spice that shit up. So like a little drop is all you need, and some people you just put like the whole can in there or whatever. But yeah, I get it. I see you. I know. I can tell. As a Haitian-American creator in the comic book industry, what responsibilities, if any, do you feel that it comes to representation and inclusion?
Well, I will say, growing up, not sort of having too many Haitian representatives when it came to the media. It was like we had a few. We had like Wyclef Jean, who was very proud Haitian. We had why is her name slipping my mind? We have one Haitian actress as well. But when I got into comic books and learning, there was actually a good number of us who were Haitian, who were making these stories. And I just remember thinking, holy crap, it's like a slight movement. I wish we can all do it. We have Chuck Collins, who does Bounce to Comics, who's so Haitian in your face about it. And he would have characters in his books doing these special moves, like there was Street Fighter, and they would be saying like Haitian terms as well.
Oh my God.
Dorothy Jean, who does Destiny Spirit. She is a Haitian comic writer as well. We have a couple, and I just feel that all of us being very proud of where we come from, and we're being very busy. I think us being what we are and continuing to do our work, I think we want to hopefully inspire people from our own culture to do the same and to showcase that we can do these type of things. Because I know when I'm teaching some students and then they find out that I'm Haitian with all the stuff that I'm doing, it's like they get this whole, oh my God, you're Haitian too. And and we're very creative. We have so much different types of art that we follow, and it's beautiful when you Google Haitian artists from Haiti and so on and so forth. And I feel like we can do something to make that a bit more mainstream, where it's not an anomaly, it's not taboo, it's just a part of our culture.
That's great. That's so cool when you open up about who you are, who you truly are, and people are accepting of it and inspired and happy to know where you are, where you came from, and who you are, and what that means to them. I think that's amazing.
Thank you. I mean, you guys do it too with your podcast.
Oh, you noticed.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
definitely this Kristen's idea, and we were just super happy to just join in and do it together. So thank you so much for noticing that.
Mhm.
Yeah, of course. I love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We love you
So-
too.
So, how do you recommend our listeners find your project on Kickstarter, and when does it end? I know we still have some time for right now, but I believe we're almost halfway done.
Well, we launched last week, Monday. We have about 19 days left as of this interview. So we still have some time. We have a little bit over 2 weeks. So it ends September 1st at 11 o'clock Eastern time, my time.
Wait,
I think
not September.
October 1st.
October 1st. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I launched August 30th, and August 30th is when I launched. October 1st is when it ends. So yeah, you could easily find it even if you could just go to Google, you type in "Is Nana the Were-Spider Showtime?" The Kickstarter should be able to pop up. You can just go on Kickstarter, go to search, type in "Is Nana the Were-Spider?" It should show up.
So we're actually talking about all the praise of just awesomeness, and we've read, the other stories, but can you just give your little elevator pitch to people listening who may be their first introduction to you and to Is Nana? What is this Kickstarter for, and tell us a little bit about Showtime.
Okay. So the general idea for Is Nana the Were-Spider, it's about Anansi the Spider and his son working together to stop these creatures from causing chaos while trying not to drive each other crazy at the same time. And what I'm trying to do with the series is use it as a way to introduce people to more Black mythological gods and heroes, because in school, it's not required for us to be educated on them. It's usually the European gods and fairy tales and so on. So as the series goes on, they meet characters from African mythology, Caribbean folktales, African-American stories, spiritualities, and so on, just to showcase that we have our own gods and heroes from all our various Black cultures that we can draw stories from. And Showtime specifically has Is Nana spending a day where he can finally learn to have fun and be a kid. He meets these three breakdancers who introduce them to Showtime, which is dancing on the trains, and he learns, unfortunately, the realities of as well as being a Black kid in an urban city.
That was perfect.
I was gonna say, you had that down pat. That is awesome. So, like I said, we've reviewed your other Is Nana stories, and we are also doing this one in an upcoming episode that is going to air while the Kickstarter is also live. But where can our listeners follow your projects that you have going now or in the future? What's your social media presence, and where would be the easiest place for people to find you?
So IG, I'm always posted on IG. You could find me at Greg Day, so GregDae. I'm on Twitter, Greg Anderson-Elysee, GregAndElysee. You can type my name on Facebook. You'll definitely find me on there. I'm always on my Facebook as well. And if you just want to buy anything that's is Nana related, my web store is webwaycomics.ecwid.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. It was a lot of fun. And now that we talked about food, I'm super hungry again. But it was really a great pleasure to have you on the show. And we love the book. We love the story. We love the character. He's so cool. He's so polite. As one of as one of the breakdancers said, I think it was the female breakdancer. She said, "He's so polite." I love it. Oh, but thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you so
thank
much
you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So that concludes this episode. We have been your hosts. I'm Sarah.
I'm Kristen.
And I'm Jen.
Thank you, guys.
Make sure you like and subscribe.
Yay!